Hey guys, me, Taylor. Hello. Good to see you. If you listened last week, you were probably a little surprised to find out that was Pete's last episode. And if you didn't, ooh, surprise, Pete is not going to be able to keep doing this. And there are a lot of reasons why, and I think it all just kind of came down to realistically, Pete's getting a doctorate from a school that is being paid for by the military that he's still active duty in, and he has a family and he's got a bunch of kids, and doing this takes time and it takes effort and energy, and he had to kind of choose what needed his time the most and where it was best spent. And so it makes a lot of sense, and I don't think it was the wrong decision. And I think that it would be disingenuous of me to say that, cool, and by that, I mean, I'm sad. I'm sad that Pete's not going to be here. I'm sad that that's kind of the way it shook down. I fully understand and respect it. I have no ill will towards Pete. I still consider Pete a very close, dear, personal friend. I would move the world for Pete. If he called me right now and asked me to, I would do it. And hopefully someday his life kind of calms down and he can come back. If nothing else, as a guest, and that would be amazing. But I think that what that means is that this is going to be different. I don't know. I don't know how. It could be that this is the last episode we do because we try it and it just sucks. I don't think it will be. I really have enjoyed the creative process. So anyway, I guess first and foremost, Pete, thank you for everything. I can't deny that it has been just an absolute pleasure to have an excuse to talk to you. I hold that to be true. I will hold that to be true always. It was really great having you on here and sharing this with you. And moving forward, have some patience with me while I kind of fumble my way through it, and open to suggestions. Anyway, cue the music. Well, hello. Oh my God. Were you saving that? Oh, so many people are going to be so thrilled. Pete's gone. The first thing they greet you with is a very large, hairy Arab man just burping into a camera or a microphone. You're so pleased with yourself. I'm great. Hi. My
Oh,
name's
you can't edit that out?
I can totally. I'm not going to. People. Why would I edit that out? It needs to exist within the context of this conversation so people know what malarkey they're getting into with this. My name is Taylor McCary. I'm a licensed clinician in the states of Washington and Texas. Joining me today is Jihad Sakhnini, who has his MS in organizational psych, and who is kind of like a teams guy. Jihad's really good with groups of people and working with them. So between the two of us, we are today's serving of emotional men. We'll see if it's tasty or not. And if it's not, I'll never do this again and cry myself to sleep every night for the rest of my life. So that's fun to look forward to. How are you doing, Jihad?
Good. I always appreciate being the pinch hitting bald guy on your show.
Yes. I traded one hairless veteran for another.
Well, I'm not hairless, but
That's true. Well, bald, I should say. You are.
uh,
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I've been navigating some health stuff for the past couple of years, but I feel like I've landed on a pretty good homeostasis in
Good.
terms of managing that. Where was I? Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like I'm, health wise, I'm getting much better, kind of managing my weight, getting more active, able
Yeah,
to
I was
get out.
just saying, you look
Kind
like
of
you've lost, like your face is looking less full.
less round.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm able to get back out doing the things I love, being more active, being out with people rather
Good.
than just laying on the couch.
Good. That's super exciting. I mean, so Jihad and I go on baseball. Goodness gracious, what kind of monster am I? We go on basketball trips, not baseball trips, because we have personalities. But we go on basketball trips, and I've been watching Jihad's like physical form evolve over the years, and so it's been interesting to watch him like an accordion, just like up and down, up and down. And so the last time I saw Jihad skinny was when we went to, where was that? It wasn't Arizona. It was before Arizona, right? Oh man, where was that?
Dallas?
No, Dallas was the first one. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I just know that like I saw him and he was skinny and then he was fat and he has been fat for a very long time.
Yes. Not my normal state, or not the
No,
normal state I like to be in.
no. I will say watching you walk as a fat man has been very gratifying because you kind of like you splay out and you kind of like there's
Yeah.
a movement to it that
Yeah.
is
The legs
beautiful.
go out this way.
Yes. And your arms kind of wave too. You almost look like you're walking like a wrestler walking down towards the ring as you swing your arms. It's fantastic. Uh,
It's just my limbs trying to get around themselves.
I like to think that like this is the normal walking, but the gravitational force of your mass is like just throwing things off. Good times, good times. I think it needs to be said as clearly and explicitly as possible that Jihad and I have a very good relationship, and we're not actually insulting each other. This is Jihad's probably my most like typical masculine friendship in that all we do is smell bad and insult each other. And
And say
Jihad gets some
horrible
real good
things
ones
to
in
each
there.
other.
Yeah, it's great. It's been a real magical part of my life. I think all of this is like an interesting way to lead into what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the distinction between facts and feelings. And so, just to kind of name it, Pete is not here, and the episode we were going to do was one that required Jihad to have a working definition of clinical psychology. And I was like, maybe not the best one to do with Jihad. However, when I think of like facts and feelings, if facts and feelings had physical forms that they lived in, I think I would be the feelings and Jihad would be the facts. And I think it's very telling that we're both good friends and we work together really well, and we kind of have weird shadow versions of each other's lives. But they are not the same, and they're it's important to understand the distinction and how they interact with one another. And so that's I thought this especially be a really fun conversation topic to have with you, Jihad. So I think for me, my first question for you is where do you land in between facts and feelings? Am I overstretching? Am I like being unfair in my assumption?
I don't think you're being unfair. I would make up that you probably think I'm more extreme towards facts because I I tend to express my feelings or experience and facts almost the same way, like very clearly, like
Hmm.
almost clinically, if that makes sense. Like I'm not super dramatic when I express something, but I might get worked up about it.
Yeah, I think
That
that's
would be
fair.
that would be my hypothesis is like because I'm not a huge fan of there being like a split because I actually think a feeling can be a fact. It's just a different type.
That's a fair point, and I think it'd be not the worst thing in the world to kind of dive into that a little bit more. I will say it's when I think of you as a facts person, it's because if you have accepted a fact, literally nothing will change your mind on it. Like nothing. You could if your house is on fire and you were of the opinion that the true best way to handle it was to go into the middle of the house and spin in circles while spitting like a sprinkler, literally nothing could be done to stop you from doing it. You just This is a fact. Science has proven that spinning around in a circle like a sprinkler will put out the fire the fastest because I'm creating wind flow, I'm spreading water everywhere, and there's a lot of fat to get through, so I am insulated and I will be safe. That's why I think of you as a facts person. That's a terrible example because it's obviously not true, but
Yeah, well, and sounds like a terrible fact.
yes.
I yeah, I can definitely see that about myself. I think for me, it's more there are smaller things I try to get the best information I can that's available to me to
Mhm.
understand. And then once I understand it, I don't give a lot of mental energy towards it unless like something is like something is shown to me.
Hmm.
But for things that matter to me, I'm constantly reevaluating. Like
Hmm.
when I say matter, like things that like are really big, my relationships, my the roof over my head, my aspirations or goals or things I love, those types
Hmm.
of things, I'm constantly just consuming, playing with, being curious, hypothesizing, testing.
Hmm.
But generally, I'm more rigid with the things I don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about.
Interesting. Do you have any kind of like revisitation that you do, excuse me, when you like look back on things that you have accepted as fact? Like, let's say you learned that the best way to tie your shoes is a very particular way. Science now shows that's not the case. Do you ever go back and go, I wonder what the current research on shoe tying is?
No, I figure if it's that dramatically off, people in my sphere will either be doing something different that will cause me to be curious about it again,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll be like, "Why are you doing that?" And I go, "Oh, this is what I was doing," and they're like, that doesn't work, right?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that." Um, it's funny that you said shoe tying because I think I learned the public school way of shoe tying and the private school way of shoe. Like, I learned the dumb kid way because I went to public school.
I went to public
Like,
school too, but we tie our shoes differently.
yes, we do. Um, maybe you went to a public school in a better neighborhood.
We went to the same high school.
We didn't learn to tie our shoes at high school. Did you learn to tie your shoes at
That's
school?
not that's not here nor there. About the when is not important. I guess that
But
is true.
like,
We were in different elementary schools.
yeah, yeah. But I always think of like I do like the simpler version,
Hmm.
but it also comes undone more easily
Hmm.
than the other version. And I just always that's always one that makes me laugh because I haven't changed that one because it still works. Like that could be like an example of like, yeah, it works.
Huh, so it
Even
just
though
feels
like
good.
yeah, like it's like familiar and I'm not destroying myself by doing it and destroying anyone else. So,
Okay.
but like
So
that's
for
one where I notice like there's a better way to do this, but I don't need to change that.
okay. So when we were talking about this earlier, you said that you feel like this is not a one or the other kind of thing, that it's not facts or feelings, but there can be an integration of the two, which I'm not surprised to hear you say, but kind of surprised to hear you say.
Hmm.
What do you mean?
Well, we're gonna get back to. I'm curious why you're surprised to hear me say that.
Because I think with the things that you've decided or have been decided that you're so stubborn about them, you know, and they're not always based in fact too, I should say. For example, when we were kids, you were like, it's not Primus, it's Primus. I was like, I'm pretty sure the band's name is Primus. And you're like, no, it's Primus. And like nothing could change your mind. Or another one I think about from time to time is when we were kids, the Beat and the Mr. Bean movie came out. And I was like, that's amazing. This is such a good movie. And he's like, yeah, but he died. I was like, Mr. Bean died? He's like, yeah, why else wouldn't he have made a sequel? I was like, I don't think that's how that works. But I believed that Rowan Atkinson had died for a solid 6 months before I found out that no, Mr. Bean did not die. He is in fact still alive today. And so
And
that,
still very funny and well spoken. And
yeah, yeah. But like, I think for you, like you had a thing that was true. And so there was nothing that could pull you from that thing. And that has been
yeah,
very much my experience of you through. It's been one of your strongest things I've tried to emulate in my own life. And one of the things that has been the most frustrating part about you.
no, I totally get it. And I feel like those fit into the example of like I I heard it from what I believe to be a reliable source, and I just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't kind of stay with it. Stay like I didn't go back and look it up. Whereas obviously nowadays I can even more quickly kind of just hop on my phone or ask something and check if something's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of I'm trying to remember your original question was like my thoughts in terms of like them not being kind of
Yeah.
polar opposites there.
Why is it not
It's
one or
not
the other?
yeah, it's not like facts or feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Um so well like I have a lot of examples both in my life in companies or teams I've supported, books, literature, you name it, that highlight the importance of having both and that there's not often a clean line between both.
Mm-hmm.
Like a fact is really clear in terms of what it is. A feeling can be really clear in terms of what it is. But in terms of the interplay between the two, it gets a little ambiguous. But like we might, because we've all had the experience where we understand, we have an intuitive sense of something, but we can't necessarily play
Like a gut feeling.
like a gut feeling. Like we don't necessarily understand it, but that's like we're feeling prompted or pushed to go that way,
Mhm.
right? And like religiously speaking, that could be like you feel prompted by the spirit, right? Or physically, you feel like something's pulling you in a direction and you can't explain the details why. And that part gets a little squishy. But factual thing is you feel a knot in your stomach.
Mhm.
That is like that's actually happening in the physical world. Other people might
Okay.
not be able to see it, right? But you're experiencing that. Um,
That'd be crazy
so
if they could. Your stomach looks terrible. I know. Well, how then do you decide the weight of the two, of which is more worth exploring or standing on, really? Because like I consider myself a very feelings forward person, and that's I imagine one of the more frustrating things about being friends with me is like I feel something and I'm like, "Ah, here's my feeling. We need to deal with the feeling. I am upset. We need to fix this. I'm happy. We need to deal with this. I I just feel feelings just like shoot out of my body to the point where when I was younger, I used to think there was something really wrong with me. And I think a lot of people probably do too. If we're being perfectly honest, I certainly have my fair share of memories of siblings who shall remain nameless telling me that there was something wrong with me because I was such a nightmare to be around, which may or may not have been true at the time. We'll just say. But
I
I
mean,
feel like for me, a feeling is it's such a visceral thing. And I don't think that I can outfeel a fact, right? Like the law of gravity is something I had to deal with, a truth, I would say. No matter how I feel about it, I'm still beholden to it. But I think by paying attention to the feeling more, I learn more about the way I can interact with it than I would if I just like, what's a fact? Let's not explore it anymore. It's like the curiosity that you're talking about is really important to me as viewed through a feelings lens.
no, totally. And before I respond to that, oh, there you can hear my
Arlette.
dog. You can hear
Arlette.
hear her give her a little howl.
Mhm.
She doesn't like the voice of people walking on our stairs in front of
Ah.
our house. But before I kind of continue that conversation, let's give teenage Taylor a little grace. You
I
had
don't know
you
that teenage Taylor deserves a whole lot of grace. I understand him to have been a very terrible person.
lots of hormones, which are factual,
Okay.
that cause a lot of experiences that you might not necessarily know how to deal with or control.
Sure.
So um, I was so like recently, like I had an experience where I felt like I was being really hard on myself, and I was
Hmm.
actually struggling to like figure out how to love myself again, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like I got I was just like beating up on myself. That voice is kind of always there, but
Sure.
I'm usually I'm usually pretty good at liking me, as Taylor knows from many
Yes.
years of experience.
Quite pleased with yourself
And
sometimes, I'd even say.
I, I know. And so in the moment, it was like a little alarming, and I felt like I forgot how to do that. It was like a brief moment, like one evening, and my way back was I had like this one vision of a moment I wish turned out differently, and I just had this quick thought of like, how could he know? Like I'm watching myself, and that little bit of grace, right? Like how could I know in that moment, like to
Hmm.
do that or do that thing different? That little bit of grace like opened me up to being like forgiving and loving with myself.
Hmm.
So that's part of the reason why I always want to like highlight that you know we do stuff, but we can give ourselves a little grace
Sure.
and learn and move forward.
I gotta
I
say,
liked I liked I liked Teenage Taylor.
oh, I'm glad somebody did. My teenage years for me, uh, man, I hope my clients are listening to this. So they know that I'm a normal human being, I guess. For me, my teenage years were rough because I was, I was real tall and real skinny and real awkward. And I, I don't know. I had an expectation of who could have been, and I just never really lived up to it. And so I'm going to be fully vulnerably honest here. Hearing you ask me to give myself the teenage version of myself grace made me just a little teary eyed because I'm not used to that version of me getting defended. So thanks. What a gift. Feels good, bro.
So back to your question.
Yes.
Um, the thing is, like, we're not robots. So as I think about it, even when I'm assessing a fact or I am researching something, there is a feeling accompanying that experience, right? Whether I'm excited, I'm nervous,
Hmm.
I'm desperate, I'm anxious for something, like I'm trying to understand something, whatever it might be, like they're always kind of together. Where it gets messy, in my opinion, is one when you don't notice it, that it's there at all, and then it just kind of just starts happening
Hmm.
on its own all over the place. And it can skew your facts, like both in terms of what you find or what you're looking for. And it can skew your interactions, your relationships, your own feeling, like how you treat yourself, your own body. But to me, the biggest thing is recognizing that they're always there. We're not robots. Can you notice it? Can you be curious about it? And then if you find yourself getting stuck on it, can you like fact check it, right?
Hmm.
Before you make a decision, so to speak. I, have you ever read Byron Katie's work?
No.
Um, it's like kind of from the Buddhist lineage. I think her initial book is like her process is called The Work, but I think her book is like Questions to Change Your Life or something like that.
Hmm.
And this is more related to kind of the story you might make up about an experience or a
Hmm.
feeling. But I always found the questions really interesting, where it's like you have an experience, and part of that, her little quick, like 60-second process is you ask, is it true? Is that true? And then the next question is, how do you know that's true?
Hmm.
Then,
Well, so this brings
like,
up an important thing in all this,
yeah,
which is the question of what is true. And I talk with my clients a lot about like is that true? Is how do you know it's true? And the reason this is I think an important question for people to be able to answer for themselves is because I think there's things that are true and things that are real. And I may have talked about this before, so just like ignore me, I guess. But like something that is true is immutable. It doesn't change just because it doesn't feel good. The law of gravity again, like it's a true law. We live according to it. We're
yeah. It's
beholden to
what can
those
be
rules.
seen by others on a video, like a video recording of what happened.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's something that it doesn't change. It doesn't matter how you view it. It's just it is. But like what's real is your experience of that thing. So like what might be true, for example, Jihad might think he's Napoleon. That's not true, but for him it's real. And so for me, how do I enter into that reality with him is going to define the relationship much more than the truth of the matter. And I think a lot of times like parents with teenagers, well, what you're saying isn't true. You think you know the truth, but you don't know the truth. I mean, yeah, part of teaching kids to grow up is teaching them to accept the facts. And if you're worried about your relationship, then don't worry about the truth. Worry about what's real. And then once you connect with their reality, like pull them back and attach their reality to the truth and just let it happen that they understand it for what it is. Anyway, sorry, go.
No, no. I mean, you're you're hitting on like a really key point. Besides, hello,
You're back.
you hear me?
Oh, look, and I can see your face moving.
Did you
You look
see all
like,
that?
yeah, you look like Jack. Jack trying to be sneaky.
Uh, you can't catch this. I'm moving in a straight line, but I'm bobbing.
Yep, that's Jackie boy. Where were we?
Why don't you just kick us off on something? I don't know where I was going.
Okay. Through this whole thing, I find myself curious for you. How do you decide? Well, if they're first off, are facts and feelings equal? If they both exist at the same time, do you give them both equal credence?
I, yeah, I kind of feel like that's a booby trap question.
Okay, well, that's fair, and I'm not intending it as such. I'm genuinely
No, no,
curious.
I'm not feeling like you're trying to catch me. I just feel like that's where I think you can get really stuck at overanalyzing things.
Hmm.
Um, there could be a strong feeling, a strong sensation, which is strongly influencing a decision
Hmm.
for you to be curious about, or there might not be that much going on. You're just kind of just doing your thing and observing and collecting information. But if you immediately want to try and balance the scales between the two, I think it's I find that a less interesting exercise. It's kind of like good for you. You got the booby prize. You balanced facts and feelings.
Hmm.
Uh, but
I'm
you,
genuinely surprised to hear you say everything you're saying today. Not to like I feel like this is all well within your character. This is just I think this highlights something which is really beautiful about life, which is that you can know a person really well. And I'm willing to bet I know Jihad probably better than almost everyone. Kate might have a slight upper hand on me, maybe, but that's just a proximity question.
and you might even know stuff about me that I don't know about me.
Oh, I guarantee you I do. I can see the back of your head. And it's obviously the same goes both ways. I think Jihad probably
Yeah,
knows me better than anyone except for my wife, and he knows things about me I don't know. Um, but like the joy of discovering, like, oh, I part of this universe that I thought I knew, I totally did not. Um, if they're not evenly balanced, then the implication to me is that they shift. Sometimes the fact is more important than the feeling, and sometimes the feeling is more important than the fact.
yeah.
I certainly think that's true. Like if my
Context matters, though, right?
yeah, absolutely it does. For you, where do you what is the line for you? Like where do you decide that the fact is more important than the feeling? Which is maybe an
I
unfair question to even ask.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's. I can think of like some examples where it's just like suck it up. Like this is what needs to be done. If I'm if I'm thinking about my job, like when I worked in an office
Mm-hmm.
and I need to generate this report, like my feelings are going to paint my experience of generating that report, but it doesn't dictate the fact that I need to make this report and I need to have a tangible artifact that is understood and clear to other people at the on the other end, right? Like those are facts
Mm-hmm.
those things need to happen if I want to keep my job. Um, and regardless of how I feel about them. Now, if I'm really struggling, I might have the good fortune of being in a situation where I can go to my manager and say, hey, I'm really struggling. There's something going on for me personally or in my life. Can this be handled by someone else or can I get some support? That could be a place where you kind of marry the two. But
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that the context is really important. Like sometimes they're just things that need to get done, no matter how you feel about them.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you don't have feelings. It just means the facts have to come first.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm a big believer you can pick and choose those moments. Some people might not feel that way, but like because we need to make a living, right? We need to have a roof over our heads and food in our tummy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we choose to work to accomplish that, to like provide money, like provide resources to accommodate that. And that choice comes with certain expectations in a context that might not always line up with your mental your mental or emotional state.
Yeah.
Um, but like when you're outside of those contexts that have very specific demands, that's a great place to play in terms of figuring out like what's like being able to notice
Mm-hmm.
and see like what that might mean. Like, oh, like I wanted to buy this, but I notice I'm nervous. Am I or like I notice like I feel like a little tremble in my body. Is that because it's expensive or is it because I don't really like it? I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of impulse buying it, kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing like that.
Okay.
So
So I mean, there's a word you keep using, which is curiosity, and you introduced a new word, which is play. I've heard you talk about play a lot, and I think I've heard you talk about curiosity a lot too. For the person who doesn't know you, why are those such important ideas to you?
oh man, how boring would this world be if it was just what we thought it was? Like
Yeah.
and then how boring would it be without play? Like just whether that's mental play, physical play, like working your body out, like doing different things, making jokes, like having
Mm-hmm.
a good time, hosting people for dinner, going dancing, like all those things are play. Like I think sometimes we narrow what play means, like oh, I have to get Legos out and do whatever, which I love Legos too, but uh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of seems like what's the point if we're not actually exposing ourselves to new things, learning new things, asking new questions, moving in new ways, being with people you love, playing,
Mm-hmm.
laughing, being curious. It just kind of, I guess maybe I take it for granted that it's such an obvious thing for me. I take for granted that for some people in their certain situation, it might not be as obvious to them. I always think like when someone's really like in their genius, like in the thing that makes them like really go,
Hmm.
It looks effortless to them, like to outside observer, and to them, it looks obvious. And sometimes the communication back and forth doesn't happen. It's like, why would I even talk about this thing that's obvious to me? I'm going to talk about this other thing. And I probably don't spend enough time talking about curiosity and play with other people just because it seems like such a given.
Hmm.
But
Interesting. It's really interesting to hear you say that because I feel like it comes up a lot in our conversations. You'll say things like you said earlier in the conversation, I make up that, or
yeah,
I'd be curious about. I feel like those are common things to hear you say. They're exploratory questions. I always was interested. Where does I make up come from? Because I feel like that started. You started saying that like 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little more.
um, it came from an argument with my wife, if you can imagine that. Uh, and it wasn't anything that I said. She was saying something to me, and I don't remember the specifics, but I remember really hating her telling me my experience.
Hmm.
Like in somehow in the conversation, like I think she was talking about this bigger thing, but somewhere within it, she was telling me how I was and how I was feeling. And I don't think her intention was to be malicious in any way, but maybe
Hmm.
it was like the kind of autonomy seeker,
Okay.
the preserve my own autonomy, like really latched onto it and like really hated it. And I don't remember ever get feeling so angry about it like in that moment. And I was like, you're just making that up. And and I was like, oh, I think I do that too. So why don't I just like vocalize it? Like
Oh,
just say like, like Taylor, like you kind of close that door kind of hard. I'm making up you're kind of pissed. Like I might, I might, because like previously I would say like, dude, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Where I'm kind of like, there's clearly something wrong, Taylor. You slammed the door really hard.
hmm.
Whereas like maybe you just sometimes we slam the door hard and it's nothing. Sometimes it is something, but I can like share. I mean, I don't have to hold it like this is true. This is a fact. Taylor is angry.
Hmm.
I can say like I kind of make up you're angry, and I can give you space to like respond. And what's interesting is some people that's actually a lot for some people. Like that's not exactly where they are. So you might hear me say it more with you
Hmm.
because I found that like it doesn't immediately like create separation, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Because my intention, same thing with curiosity and play as a whole, is like, how do we like my number one goal is the relationship, not the joke or not the expression.
That has
So
certainly been my experience that you are more than willing to adjust based on the strength of the relationship in any given moment. Although I will say that's a relatively new experience. I feel like the versions of us that existed 40 years
yeah,
ago, well, obviously 40 years ago we were babies, but like
yeah,
20 years ago, 30 years
yeah.
ago,
30, yeah,
I feel like every decade a new version of us kind of shows up, and it's been fun to kind of get to know what this new version of us is.
yeah, yeah. Like, how boring would it be to be like the same, like exactly the same as
Oh,
we were like
dude,
in middle school?
totally. I was talking to a couple one time in my office, and they're like, well, since we got married, he's changed. In what way? Well, he wants to stay home now. Well, how old is he? He's 50. Okay. People change. The passion doesn't necessarily disappear, but it certainly it changes
It
direction.
evolves. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
becomes a new kind of thing. Like me and my wife, that's let me tell you what, dude, like, oh man, this may be a TMI kind of thing.
You
One
might cut it.
thing
That's
I
fine.
might cut it, yeah. One of the things that we've recently discovered that is just the best is at the end of a long day, I'll be like, hey, you want to cuddle naked for a little bit? And she'll be like, okay. And it's completely non-sexual and is the most like,
Soothing.
oh my
Yeah,
goodness, dude. It fills my soul up. It's ridiculous. And I love it. And to all you coupled folks out there, try it sometime. Just like be naked
a
next to each
cuddle.
other.
I I have that with we always end up taking a nap, me and Kate, when we do something like that.
Hmm.
And I sleep harder and deeper. I can't say those
I,
words and look at your face.
I didn't. I did my absolute best. I was like,
I know, but it came through. You just can't hide it. Like literally, like your face starts changing, and you're like, I'm gonna be stoic here.
I'm gonna be the bigger man
I'm,
here.
I'm a professional.
I,
Uh, but like, and one of the things is like whenever I try to wake up from one of those naps,
mhm.
like I have so much, you know, that feeling of sleep debt where you're kind of like groggy, like
Yeah.
you're literally just stoned, because we just crash out, and there's something like just complete safety and comfort
Oh,
and
dude.
connection, and like I'm just out, and it'd be, even if it's like 30 minutes, like we try and get up, we're like, oh, we're zombies.
Uh-huh.
Why do we have to move?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely something there. Like that would, to me, is like there is something happening, right, factually, but like the feeling of like there is something soothing. I might not be able to exactly quantify it. I'm sure someone can quantify some chemical that's firing in my brain and blah blah
Hmm.
blah. Like there's probably some other things that people can quantify, but I know something happens when that happens.
Yeah.
And
That's, so I think maybe we talked about you being more of a fat guy, me more of a feeling guy. My experience is starting to change a little bit, and I'm starting to think that we're both. Maybe I was wrong about that, and I'm only going to say maybe because I'm too big of a man to ever admit I was wrong about anything. But I do think that maybe whereas I used to say your facts and I'm feelings, I think maybe a more accurate way is as a general rule of thumb, you're more quantity and I'm more quality. You're like, what do the numbers say? And I'm like, what's the experience of the thing? Is that maybe more fair?
yeah, I mean, or I might, and this is definitely not intended to sound like a dig.
Uh,
It might be that I'm generally, not always, because I know I can get spicy with you. I'm generally more measured when I share something, and yours might come out a little bit more exuberantly. And that
I hate you.
understood.
I think that's very fair. I think that I do come off my emotions burn a little hotter than yours.
Yeah, and even that, like it might just be, you know, I would say I used to be even spicier, but some of the things I've seen or like experienced have kind of made it generally takes a lot to wind me up now.
I
A
would
lot more
agree with
than a
that.
lot more like a lot more than it used to. And so like I can see how that can come off as more like not cold, but maybe more calculated or
Hmm.
measured in
Hmm.
like my words or responses,
Hmm.
which might come across as more like facts. I think I shared this with you before. One of the things that used to always annoy me in groups is I would share my preference so clearly and plainly that everyone just assumed that that's what had to happen.
Yes.
And like it would be like, "Oh, what should we get?" And I'll just immediately say like, um, "I like Chinese sushi, no Indian." But
Yes.
like they would take that as their only options are Chinese sushi. I was just sharing like my preference.
Hmm.
Like if I wanted Chinese or sushi, I would say like I want Chinese or sushi. Like, but when I say I prefer, I literally just mean like that would be my preference, but I'm open to getting pizza or burger or whatever,
Hmm.
like a burrito. Let's do it. Uh, but like it took me a while to learn that, even as like a manager or a leader, where like sometimes I would express something so quickly and clearly that would just be like a preference. It comes across as a factual statement of like this is the new reality. This is what is. This is the way it has to be. Um,
It's actually something about you that I've tried to incorporate in my own life is I've realized that um I feel like when I was a
oh,
kid, it was
poor baby
I
Taylor.
know let's all feel feelings with me. I feel like when I was a kid, it was very much there's a person in control, and the person in control will say what's going to happen. And so growing up, I don't like being told what to do. No, thank you very much. As I become an adult, though, I've recognized one a little bit of that in myself. You'll be shocked to hear, Jihad. Uh, but two, I'm recognizing that I can be direct without being demanding. And that's something I've kind of learned from you, where I'm just like, no, no, like, I'm not telling you what to do. You're asking me what I want. This is what I want. Let's negotiate. And
Yeah.
people don't seem to like that approach unless they understand where you're coming from. I think it works really well between you and me, but certainly like
Yeah.
navigating schedules with clients or navigating moments with people, it's, well, what do you
Uh,
want? Well, I want this. Okay, well, fine, I'll do that. No, 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 like, push back.
what do you want? Yeah, like come on,
Let's,
let's have a go back
I
and
tell
forth.
people all the time, let's pick a fight. Can we please just fight about this and be done with it? And it's not because I like fighting. I hate fighting. I want the fight to be over, but I can't have it be over if we don't start it. And if I'm saying something that you don't like, I need you to tell me you don't like it so that I can change to accommodate you. With our powers combined, we can build something better, but please don't just roll over and take it. Oh, it kills me.
Well, like I try, I think I've shared this with you before. Like I try to find as many opportunities to open people up to the power of that, like the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity in that to take like personal responsibility and like actually stand for what they want. And potentially, like when you're in a team environment, like how can you negotiate a solution that lifts up the team but doesn't just squash you?
Yeah.
Because like,
Yes.
uh, but I've also realized, similar to you, that some people aren't there yet. That's okay. I
Yeah.
like I might
I
not
actually
like
probably would do
if
well
I
to realize that a little bit more, for being perfectly honest.
well, and if I'm being honest, right? Like I might not choose to spend a ton of time with that person, and it's not that they're a bad person. It's just like I'm not like it's just not my style to like do a lot of hand holding.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
unless I'm, like unless it's like the job, right? My job is to bring people to a point, right? To
Hmm.
teach, to coach, to consult. Like that's a very different experience. I always use the example of it can be really frustrating when you're trying to support somebody and you see this whole football field, right? 100 yards and they've moved an inch and you're
Hmm.
like, ugh, right? But then like the reframe is that inch was a whole football field to them.
Mm.
And like understanding like that is like, okay, like this is my football field, but like I'm helping them. It's not about me. Like, did they move? Like, did they meaningfully move for them?
It's always so interesting in doing these conversations with Pete, and now doing this one with you. I always really enjoy like the way it changes me, the way that people say stuff. I go, like, oh, it's my favorite part of my job too. Honestly, the number of times the client had said something and I go, oh, I'm definitely stealing that one. It's great. It's absolutely great. That curiosity, right? We've been talking a lot about facts and feelings, and I don't know we have a clear cut way of saying when to know which one to prioritize.
Mm,
But you brought up like George Soros, for example, his portfolio, and he would change his portfolio based on if he had back pain. Is that what that was?
yeah,
So
isn't
how
that
do you?
crazy?
That is nuts. I can kind of relate. Like, there are times when you can give me a fact, but if I'll have like a deep, deep feeling about it, and like nothing will move me from the feeling that is overpowering that fact. And you've talked a lot about curiosity. I wonder how how do people kind of approach facts with curiosity? Because I can imagine a lot of people being like, but it's a fact. What is there to be curious about? Why? Yeah. Why should I be curious with this thing? Here's the number. The number is 2. What am I going
Yeah.
to like? What's the curiosity?
Well, I mean, the most obvious example for things like that would be, you know, like we're on the Artemis 2 missions right now, so space has been on my mind a lot because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so cool. I'm one of the people I want to be. I don't want to just go to outer space in my lifetime. I want to like be on a body in outer space, so the moon or Mars. I think that would be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But I think about SpaceX, for example. The fact is, you need X amount of fuel and thrust to get something into space, and it costs this much money. And you want to be able to do multiple daily launches, like in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That is unsustainable. Like factually, you cannot afford to do that. That's not possible. Like not feasible at all.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not feasible? Well, it's because you have single use rockets. So we need to create a rocket that can be reusable. How do you do that? Well, I mean, you drop off, like you dump the rockets. There's no way it could be reusable. So what if the rocket landed itself? Well, that technology doesn't exist. Like you can't do that. And
Mhm.
so like to me that is a example. Some people might call it first principles thinking from like in physics, but that would be an example of you're not questioning the fact, you're questioning what's possible or what needs to be possible for the fact to be different or to either reinforce it or to change it.
Mhm.
Like to me that would be like how you play with the fact. It's like, okay, why is that true?
Mhm.
Like what else is like reinforcing that? And sometimes in the business world people want to change certain facts, or even in your relationship. You know, a relationship could be like, a fact could be I'm separated from my partner,
Mhm.
which you know is not actually true right now. But like what I mean is like that could be a fact. Like you guys are living in separate places. You can be curious about that and be like, all right, do like is this actually what I want
Mhm.
too? You know, like maybe, you know, or like, do I want this to be different? What needs to be true for this to be different? And that's how you can start playing with the facts.
Hmm. That makes sense. While you're talking, I realize we never really define what a feeling is, and I think most people like I know what a feeling is. I feel a thing.
I
Um,
know what it
it
is.
feels. It's yeah. It's a feeling, and I can hear maybe one or two people listening to this and thinking, well, why would I ever want to index in feelings? Because they change. Feelings are temporary or they're volatile. They can change based on anything from like, I just stubbed my toe to I ate a bad hot dog to, I mean, there's so many things that can deeply impact a person's feelings. And so I kind of wanted to dive into this just a little bit. And I'm very open to your thoughts on this. I
Mhm.
kind of view feelings and emotions as different things. And I think that this is an important for me distinction because a lot of times people will say, well, like, I feel like this is bad. I'm like, well, do you feel like it's bad or do you have a bad feeling when you think about it? And like, what's the difference? Okay. So an emotion is a temporary burst of energy, right? Like happiness is an emotion, sadness, anger, and it's an intense concentration of an experience of a thing. Like I'm looking right there. My wife got me flowers and I have them on my desk and they're beautiful and I love them. And they made me happy when I first saw them. I was like, oh, that's so lovely and very touching. I'm looking at them now. I'm not feeling like overwhelmed with love and joy. They make me happy. I'm still happy they're there, but I'm not, the emotion isn't there. The emotional thing was a temporary blast of, she got me flowers. Because let me tell you what, buddy, been a shitty week. It's been a real shitty week. That is included but not limited to cleaning up 3 piles of dog diarrhea in my daughter's room while my wife is puking in the other room with a piece of glass stuck on my foot all at the same time. And that was just Monday. It's been a week. So, getting these flowers from my wife was really beautiful, honestly. But again, the emotion, that burst of flowers, it's gone. I can look at those flowers and not have the burst of emotion, but I still feel something because I look at them. And that feeling is gratitude. That feeling is joy. And that doesn't change based on the emotional experience of a thing. So like
Mm.
feelings are feelings can change, but they stay more constant. I kind of like the momentum of an emotion is not a lot. Emotions can be fast and powerful, but there's not a lot of mass that needs to move to change an emotion. Whereas a feeling is like a big ship in the water and it takes a lot of effort and energy to get a feeling to change. So for example, and I wrote this down to make sure I get this right. Jihad smells bad, I feel. Because when I'm around him and I smell him, I think, wow, he really needs to do a better job of cleaning his body off. Uh, when I think about it, in his presence, I get angry. I feel angry because I am subject to the stinky green lines waving off of his body and punching me in the face. It's terrible. When I'm not in his presence, I think about this is actually kind of true. When I'm not in his presence and I think about other people who have to smell him, it, I feel happy. It makes me laugh. My emotional experience of the thing is changing, but the feeling that he smells bad has not changed. And the feeling is, to be totally fair, it's an opinion. It's based on a personal interpretation of an experience. I feel that the smell is bad. Whereas, like, my dog is like, oh, he smells like what I just pooped out. I would love to lick this. We have
Dogs
different
do love me.
feelings. Yes, yes, they do. Uh,
Uh, well,
yeah.
Sorry, no, please continue. I was
Oh,
going to
it's
ask
just
you a
it's
question.
it's okay. I think that the feeling is based on a fact. The emotion is the interpretation of the feeling in a moment.
Okay, so I want to try and understand this and maybe say it back to you, and then you can like correct me where I'm off.
Okay.
The feeling is your experience of the emotion. That was I was me trying to simplify it. Was that an accurate
Um,
representation or off?
I would say that is off. A feeling is, if we were to like quantify it, it would be
Hmm.
the the value of the thing emotionally. I feel like, for we won't go into politics, but I feel things about politics and policy, right?
Hmm.
Other people feel different things. We're looking at the same set of facts, and we have different values, and so we have different
Different
feelings.
experiences
Yeah, and
or
so like
feelings. Yeah.
a feeling is like maybe like a quantification of an experience without using numbers,
How we like make sense of an experience, maybe like how we.
and how we categorize it: positive, negative, you know. And then
And then
emotions are
the
good.
emotion's kind of that physical feeling that you feel in your body, like
Yeah,
the wave that comes up, like maybe it's
the
heat in your
revulsion of
face.
smelling your actual smell,
Yeah.
and like it goes down into my chest, and now I'm angry. It's like a burning anger. Why would you not shower for the 50 billionth time? Please wash your body. The emotion, this is something therapists say a lot. Like when you think about your dad, where does that feeling live? And it sounds like a really stupid thing, but like, for example, one of my very first clients, he got really angry and he would punch a wall. And one time he punched a wall and just like shattered these two bones right here, the boxer's
Mhm.
fracture. And so we were talking, and I was like, well, when you get angry, what does it feel like? He's like, I don't know. I just get mad and then I punch a wall. Okay, well, let's see if we can slow the process down. And by where do you notice you're angry first? And eventually he's like, well, I feel it when I clench my hands when I get angry. Okay, so does that mean when you clench your hands, anger is there or anger is building? And eventually we got to a place where he's like, when I am clenching my hands, I recognize I'm starting to get angry and I'm starting to lose control of my anger. So fast forward like 3 months, he was a teenager at the time. We were in a meeting trying to navigate, not benefits, what's the word? Accommodations for schooling. And they were making him really mad. And he got up and he flexed his hand like he was going to punch, and then he stopped himself because he recognized that his hand was clenched, and he went, I need to take a walk to calm down. And they were like, what, you stopped yourself? And I was like, yes, because he experienced the emotion in his body, told him how he felt about the thing, and he was able to use that to make a choice.
Yeah, I always feel like that ties really closely to kind of the way I've always what I've always believed, and maybe we're using different words for it, which is you have zero control over your emotions
1000%.
and you have a full control over your expression once you are able to like recognize what's going on.
Ish. I think there are
It
limits to that
when
statement.
you're oh, but like that's always been like kind of my distinction is
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. I think the place where I disagree, I think you have full accountability for what you do, right?
yeah,
Like you are accountable for the things you do with your emotions. I think that if I'm upset and I punch a hole in the wall, even if I'm like acting so fast that I can't stop and process the thing, I still have to fix the hole in the wall.
yeah,
However, I think you can use your emotions and feelings to get to a place where you can control the expression more fully. But like, for example, uh, I was on Monday exhausted, smells like dog poop because my daughter's room is across the hallway from my office, and I'm smelling diarrhea that I've already cleaned up. Well, I've
yeah,
cleaned up two. I didn't realize there's a third one, so that's why that smell just kept on giving. But this is really stupid, but I was looking in myself in the camera and I saw my undershirt poking through, and then I grabbed at it like that, and I saw myself. I was like, wow, that was a big reaction. I
yeah.
don't know that I had control over the face I made. I knew that I was like, I want this thing to go away, so I wanted to tuck it back in, but I didn't have control to how quickly I got to the place where I was like gonna murder somebody.
Angry. Yeah, gonna like rip it off.
Yeah,
I mean that makes sense. I think again context matters, right? I think it's once you get exceptional at recognizing the like the felt experience, like something coming up in your body, I think that's a big one. Uh, just to get in front of your attribution of the feeling or like your response to the
Hmm.
feeling, like what you're going to do to it. I always, I think I shared this with you earlier today, but I always think of this study. They were measuring like concert pianists, and
I didn't say a thing. I was like,
I,
there was not a penis joke that came to my head until you stopped and made that face. That's on you. That's not on me. That's on you.
I know. I just wanted to look at you and see.
Taking a drink of
Um,
water and you're like, oh,
yeah,
pianist.
I wanted to see if you'd spit the one. So there's a study with about concert pianists who
That's
they
not
look
laughing.
at they
I,
look at they look at their ability to notice what's going on in their body.
I like how both of us have to look away while you're saying it.
I have to look up. I'm looking at the trees.
Yes.
Um, but like, so they were trying to measure like what was a leading indicator of a great performance.
Okay.
Right? There's a lot of pressure on you. You know, you're the only person on stage. You're trying to perform this complex art in front of all these people who have heard what you're going to play a million times, and any mistake is going to be immediately noticed. And so they were curious, like, what was a leading indicator of someone being successful in that endeavor, like performing well. And what they found always stuck with me, which was the people who can notice what's going on in their body. You know, like, oh, I noticed my stomach is tight. I can feel a little sweat on my brow or in my hands. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
people can notice like the things that are going on. That was a leading indicator of high performance, like of being successful on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the leading indicator of poor performance, or the people who struggled on that stage, was when they would notice that sensation, they would immediately attribute it to something.
Hmm.
So the example would be, oh, I noticed my stomach is tight. I must be scared. And
And that was a leading indicator of poor performance.
poor, poor performance.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it wasn't that it's wrong to attribute. I think what it really found was, you know, when you have something like that, like you notice, stay curious, you can maybe make a hypothesis in like an athletic or performance related endeavor that's actually not that valuable. They
Mm-hmm.
found that over and over again. But like in life, you might want to understand something. So maybe you make a hypothesis and then you kind of check it. Uh, kind of what those questions we talked about earlier, like how do you know that's true? Or like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just check the counterfactual and then you can kind of decide what you want to do with it or what that feels like. And I think when they're highlighting poor performance, people jump from notice to fact they skip the curious part.
Hmm.
It's like they notice something, it's immediately this, and it's a fact, and no one's going to change their mind.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. And yeah, that totally makes sense. I feel like with clients a lot, it's like, well, this I see this a lot in like people who are talking to other people. I said this thing. Obviously, he was mad at me. Well, how do you know? Well, because I saw his face. What kind of face was it? Well, like this. Okay. Well, did he? What
Eat a
else was
spicy
happening?
pepper.
Yeah, like he was just telling me how much his stomach hurt, and then I was like, yeah, whatever. Like he failed me again. Then he made this face. Like, see, you can't take criticism. Like he was probably about to poop his pants.
Yeah, or he had gas.
Yeah,
They love beans. Yeah,
yeah,
uncomfortable.
absolutely. And this is another one that I think about a lot is attributed attributions that are granted to textual conversations. I am so guilty of this. I tell people all the time, never ever text stuff. And I got some disappointing news over a text. And I was like, I'm going to sit on this. And then this person said something that I totally took to mean a different thing. And I lost my mind. I broke all my rules and angrily replied. And I was like, oh, I did not need to do that. But I'm so angry. I'm not even going to apologize. And that was perhaps not the best way to have approached that.
I mean, just imagine like everybody works through email or Slack or
Oh, dude.
Teams or and so they're regard like outside of text, which everyone's using as well. But like so much of our communication comes through, and there's literally there's tons of funny like memes out there in terms of like the passive aggressive tone of certain expressions.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Like,
there's a whole Key and Peele skit. I've talked about it on this podcast. If you are giving someone something in writing, you are giving them permission. Nay, you are giving them a job to read it in the worst possible way. And they always do every single time. Uh,
or like, oh, there's a blank here. Let me fill it with absolute garbage.
that's right. This is something I've learned about people too. People are generally very gracious to other people and so mean to themselves. And
Yep.
once you cross that line where you make a mistake and you fill in a whole context of lived experience, and then you realize what you've done, you're just like, well, I'm just the worst. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go sit in a dark room and chew on a cyanide capsule. I don't know. People just are so quick to. Guilty. Guilty as
No,
charged.
same here. Yeah.
And I will
I
say, I was literally about to say that surprises me to hear you say that because I don't view you as the kind of person who does that. I view you as like I've made a decision. I am sticking with this decision, and I will not move from it because the decision is made. And I think that's true in some cases, but it sounds like you're telling me that I might be wrong.
It's a good job. Stay curious, my friend.
Yes. Yes.
Well, um, in another life, like 10 years ago, I made this exercise up for like just to help people with some like personal development, internal monologue stuff, uh, where I would have them write down the worst things they say to themselves.
Hmm.
Like, what's the worst thing like you say to yourself? Like, and give them like 5 minutes, literally just handwrite it down. And then they have like there's two other people, so it's three people in the group, and everyone passes their note to the right, and then the other two people stand in front of the person, and one person's just reading what they wrote about themselves, saying it to the other person.
Oh, that sounds brutal.
It was very different context, but the idea was that like they can see outside of them, so they can see the things that they're saying, but they're seeing someone else say it to someone else. Like
Hmm.
notice, like, oh wow, like why would anyone say that to anybody? Like why would that happen? Like why?
Hmm.
Whereas like sometimes when it's in you, it's really hard to navigate. That
Yeah.
like trying to, the idea was like pull it out of you and then just watch people role play it, just with your words,
Hmm.
and then you get a chance to do that for other people and support them. And it was just really interesting to watch like people just have these like one aha that like wow everyone like, because a lot of people had similar things that they say about themselves, right? Like wow, everyone goes through this. I thought that was just me. I thought I was the only one who was this hard on myself. So that was like a relief for them. And but then the other one was like, oh wow, like I wouldn't like, I don't even like think that about other people. Like where does this come from? Like this isn't even like who I am as a person, yet this is what I say to myself all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah. People, one of my favorite therapy tricks is to repeat back to a person exactly what they just said without changing anything. And sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I'm such a piece of shit for doing that." And I'm like, "Oh, you're a piece of shit for doing that." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm just saying what you said."
it's amazing like when the words come out, like when they're out loud
Hmm.
and like not from them, like towards them or towards other people, like
Yeah,
it's a totally different relationship to the words. They're
absolutely.
like,
Like I
oh,
feel like that's part of the
holy
magic of
hell.
therapy is like you hear yourself say stuff, and when you hear it out loud, you're like, "Oh, that does not taste the way I thought it was going to taste."
It's also, I think, the beauty of just talking or writing in general
Yeah, totally.
is it just, if you leave it in your head, it's going to spin and it's generally going to take the worst path possible.
Hmm.
Whereas when you're like saying it out loud, it might not come out right. But if you're with the like right thought partner or friend
Hmm.
or family member who loves you and it's like a safe spot, like you can play around it like, well, no, that's not exactly what I meant. Let me,
Yeah.
and you can like kind of crystallize like your thinking or your feeling out loud, or like edit it, like actually writing it, like somehow to get it out of your head. Like we're not very good editors in our head.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it because it exists in a vacuum, there's no way to shape it because
Yeah.
it fits in the space that it's within. It's like water in a cup. It fills that space. But once you get it out, it's defined by the limits of the words you use, the tone you use, and then there's the thing. Now you have to deal with the thing. And dealing with the thing
Yeah.
is how you grow past the thing.
And you can reshape it, adjust it, like
Hmm.
make it like oh, actually this is my experience. This is what I want to like this is actually what I want for the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's so
Um,
interesting coming into, oh, go ahead.
no, go.
I was going to say, coming into this, I fully expected this to be a conversation about facts and feelings, and what it has turned into is a commercial for curiosity.
It's more fun that way. I don't know what else to say. Like, I know it sounds like lame. Like, uh, do you remember in Elf, when Will Ferrell is like at the department store and he's just smiling all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy who's running the toy section's like, "Why are you smiling like that?" It's like, I don't know. Smiling's my favorite. It's like, make work your favorite.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and me and Kate, my wife, have a inside joke where like because she'll she might lean towards like feeling things a little more deeply, which is great to have in a partner, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and my leaning would be like to be more playful and just like, why worry about that? Like that would be my inclination. And so like whenever she's like in process, like I'll walk by and like make fun of your favorite. But then she'll like say the opposite. Like she's like, make feeling your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd be like, she'll say it to me, I'll be like, and I'll say, make fun of your favorite, and she'll be like, but it lets us like not get stuck in like autopilot, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so there's another exercise I used to have people do to feel their yeses in their nos.
Hmm.
I would often say like there's the more difficult nuance was always no or yes, but I'm scared.
Mm.
They feel very similar versus like the exuberant yes, like duh, like no, like I'm just going in that direction.
Sure.
Uh, uh, and I used to have people go with a partner. They would leave, and like when we had these like little workshops, we would be near like a shopping mall, and I would literally say like, go to like shoe or clothes or something like that. Like find the ugliest or most outrageous thing you can find, and like offer it to your partner. And like they're like no, and like when they would say their no, it wasn't just no. It's like, where do you feel that in your body? Like
Hmm.
where do you actually feel? Like where do you feel your no? Like start mapping, like and then like go grab like a fresh baked chocolate chip cookie or something. It smells delicious. What? I'm like, yeah. Like, where do you feel like there? I always found that there are, there are nuances, but there are kind of like reliable maps,
Sure.
and like in terms of our body of like, oh, that's a yes, or like that's a no. Uh, and I feel like we'd just be a lot happier if we were like, if a no is a no, say no, and if a yes is a yes, say yes,
Yeah.
or like say yes and I feel scared, like this, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's one of those things, like you're talking about injecting vulnerability into the experience without injecting what's the word? Um oh dude, you're injecting vulnerability without injecting like a sense of danger. It's the stability is still there. You can be vulnerable and not worry about falling over. And that's that moment of like, it's a yes, it's a scared yes. It's a
yeah,
no, but it's a sad no. Well, okay,
yeah,
well now
like
we're vulnerable and living with the facts.
yeah, that's I love the sad no. It's like because I feel like that one's true for me too. That's probably like the FOMO no.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's like actually, it doesn't feel like the right time to like do this or travel here, but like I would love to actually, but
Hmm.
not right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we did it. Whatever it is. Uh, thanks for being my bald vet friend.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers, sir. And thanks for everyone who listened, who made it this far. And we'll see what happens next time.
Taylor is creating from discovery. He doesn't know what's
Yes.
next.
Yes. Who knows? Who knows what's coming next? Thanks again, dude. I'll see you later.